Grab your cup and listen up, because this is an important conversation for people in relationships. Do you see around and about in social media a lot of stuff about narcissism, right? So what I see often is you fell under the spell of a narcissist, or this is what you need to look out for in a narcissist. And here's what I want you to know. It's really a dynamic between two people that you want to pay attention to, and your part in that dynamic. There is no falling under the spell of a narcissist. It's a very easily to spot specific dynamic that happens, and you want to understand where you are in that dynamic, okay? So narcissism has been defined by psychology as a personality disorder, and that's an old definition. That's an old psychology construct. In the newer way of thinking, what more and more thought leaders in that field are saying is that people with narcissistic tendencies, and it's a spectrum, they might fall in various places along the spectrum, but it is not a personality disorder as it is so much a way of coping with life. It's the way that they learn to cope with life. So, and here, let me tell you who says that, okay? Dr. Gabor Mate, who I share a lot and quote a lot from his work, because he's absolutely brilliant and he is changing how people see development and how they understand what happens in their life and the connection to their body. So Dr. Gabor Mate, Dr. Nicole LaPera, who is the holistic psychologist. She also has a doctorate in psychology, current thought leader with several books out, as is Dr. Mate. And Sven Erlandson, who is the badass counselor, had been practicing as a priest is not the right word, I guess minister, pastor in some way, and now does much more counseling from this perspective. All three of them, just to give you three off the top, of current people who are being listened to and making a huge difference, say it's not a personality disorder as it is so much a way of coping. So when we look at any time we're coping through life, we're under stress, right? When you're happy and resting, you don't need to cope, you just be. So when we're coping through life, it's because our nervous system is perceiving something as stress. And that happens starting when we're very young, and we have to figure out how to cope. So I've done these stages before of stress. I actually just did a live this week on that. But in case you're new to the conversation, there's fight, right? What do I need to do? I need to fight. Something's threatening me. There's flight. I need to run. I can't fight. I don't have what it takes to fight, but I need to run because I feel threatened. There's freeze, which is I've been trying to fight or run for so long, I actually just feel frozen and dissociated. And then there's fawn. Fawning is when you fawn over someone. Let me get that for you. Let me take care of that for you. So people with narcissistic tendencies, let's define those for a second. That's someone who thinks that their perspective is the only perspective, is not interested in listening to what the other person has to say, most of the time anyway. Remember, it's a spectrum, right? They blame people, they shame people, so they say things to the people that they're in relationship with to make them feel shamed so that they get their perspective and what they want. They bully people. They use techniques like gaslighting. Gaslighting is when you make someone doubt their perspective, doubt their experience. So you say something and then the next day you go, I never said that. And the person's like, wait, yes, you did. That's an example of gaslighting. So people with narcissistic tendencies will use all of those ways, and it's actually a way of them coping with their experience and their dysregulated nervous system. Of those stages that I just mentioned, which one do you think that is? It's the first one, right? It's the fight. They are always prepared for a fight, looking for a fight, sometimes demanding a fight, because that's the stage that they're stuck in. And they don't know how to get out of that fear stress mode and to cope with life in a different way. So can they change? Sure, but they would have to want to, right? So anything that's talking to you about what a narcissist does or what to spot is less helpful to you than actually understanding, well, okay, if that's what the narcissist does, what do I do? So a narcissist is going to really easily match up with, you don't fall under their spell. There's something about you that matches up with a person in that coping style. So who would be a really good match for someone who likes to bully and shame and only get their way and gaslights by telling you you're crazy, you're stupid? It would be someone who is so worried about other people's opinions. So somebody whose coping style is fawning over others. That person is always more concerned with how other people are feeling. That person is stuck in patterns of people pleasing. That person is always saying yes. That's their coping style. It's the perfect match for someone in a coping style of always being in a fight, which is a narcissistic tendency. So fawning would be a great dynamic. Can you see how it doesn't just happen by happenstance, that you're going along happily, really self-regulated, knowing who you are? No, you're in one of these stages. And the good news is you can get out of them. So what else would be a good match? You're not going to get two people who are stuck in fight really staying in a relationship together, because they would both be doing those same things to each other. It wouldn't work, right? The person stuck in fight, which would be the person with the narcissistic tendencies, is going to look for either somebody stuck fawning throughout their life, somebody stuck in flight, because flight means I got to get away from this. I'm uncomfortable. So when they're doing that in their relationships, they're not dealing with whatever there is to deal with. They just sort of avoid it, take themselves away, go keep themselves busy. Okay, he's doing his thing, or she. They're doing their thing, they're blaming, they're on a rant, they're bullying me. I'm just going to go in the other room and make myself busy. That's what somebody stuck in a coping style of flight would do. And it's the perfect match, right? And then somebody stuck in freeze, which really happens when you've been in one of the other stages long enough. You go into freeze and dissociative. Now you don't even have any energy to do much of anything. That's when you kind of nosedive into depression, apathy. You're really not coping almost at all so that your body can protect itself. But the dynamic of being in a relationship with someone who has narcissistic tendencies, whether it's a parent, whether it's a partner, whether it's a child, I think it's helpful to understand that's their coping technique that they have learned works for them because they've been stuck in a dysregulated place. They've decided that fighting, all the nuances of fighting, how that could look, is the way for them to feel safe. And they find people who are fawning over other people, people pleasing, who avoid, as the perfect match. It doesn't just happen. So if you want to break that pattern, you have to do what it takes to break your pattern. Change how you regulate your nervous system and change how you think and see yourself so that the same things don't get you back into that pattern. That's the work that we do in Return to You. If you've been struggling in relationships like that and the dynamics always feel off-putting and you don't get what you need and you're not connected, drop me a comment. Let's talk about what you need to do for that. Have a good day.